Welcome in to Baxter Street Boys. We are live. Appreciate everybody coming in. Remember to subscribe to the podcast, subscribe to this YouTube channel, hit the like button, all that good stuff before we get into the meat and taters. The Dogs, they're 5-0. We are 5-0, and that's all that matters. But there are some talking points, as we all know. I think everybody had an idea of what the problem was on Twitter. But we are here to bring you what the problem was, what it is. Is it something to worry about, or are we still just cooking? I think we have three people in three different headspaces, so it should get good. We should entertain all of you guys today. Let's get right into it.
10, 12, he's running over people. Oh, you hurt the walking.
There he goes in the corner again, and we jump up. Touchdown! Oh, God, a touchdown in the corner.
He just stepped on their face with a hobnail boot and broke their nose. We just crushed their face.
Swift's got running room. Swift by the defense. 40, 30. They won't catch him. Go, Swift, into the end zone. Touchdown! The freshman just ran it back to Philadelphia. 50, 10, 5. Touchdown, touchdown, touchdown. Dogs win it. We're headed to Atlanta. Near sideline, and it's intercepted. Intercepted. Keely Ringo at the 21. Off he goes. 40, 50, 45, 40, 35, 30. Near sideline. Breaks the tackle. 20, 15, 10, 5. Touchdown, touchdown, touchdown. Georgia.
I know I'm asking a lot, you guys, but hunker it down one more time.
All right. We're in. We're ready to roll. I got a lot to talk about. Boys, how we feeling?
I'm all right. I typically get laryngitis about once a month, so it's probably sneaking up on me. My voice is going to be a little lower today, but I'll power through.
Nice, Warrior. Griff, how we doing?
Hey, I mean, this weekend it was an absolute sweat fest of a weekend between the two Braves games versus the Mets, the Dogs game, and the Falcons. But we came out 4-0.
Yeah,
and that's what I'm sitting on. That's what I'm sitting on. Won all the games. It may have been nut cutter after nut cutter, but here we go.
It was. Griff was not well about midway through the game. A lot of stuff being thrown, a lot of stuff being hit. I had to take him outside, throw the football with him, kind of relax his mind a little bit. But we got through it. Just like the Dogs, we got through it. I put out a question on Twitter this week. If you're not following us on Twitter, once again, make sure you follow us at Backstreet Boys. And I asked, in your opinion, what is the problem? And I think this is one of college football fans' most, something they enjoy secretly the most is when your team plays bad, trying to have the right opinion of why they played bad. And so naturally we got like 195 responses to this tweet. So I decided to bookmark some of them. I'll read some to y'all, and y'all tell me what you think about it. The overwhelming answer was the offensive line. And we'll obviously get into the specifics of the game later on down the line. Initial thoughts on the offensive line, though.
Got beat in the trenches. I mean, that's a pretty easy summation of it. You got beat in the trenches big time.
Yeah, they did not play well.
Do you think it was – I mean, they're not better than us up front. Like, let's just be real. They're not better than us up front. So was it just kind of a, they hit us in the mouth early and hung around type game, or was it, I don't know. Like, any thoughts on that?
I would lean towards that. And somebody made John made a good point. He said Stetson didn't help them out a lot. He would drift into pressure. He was off schedule a little bit. He was overthrowing everybody. Everything just looked out of rhythm and everything just looked out of sync. So.
Yeah, it was one of those things where the offensive line was brutal to start the game. There was a lot of bust. There was a lot of just getting whipped, just straight up whipped. And Kirby said that after the game. You know, what was the problem? Well, we got whipped. And I said on Twitter too, I think there was a lot of times where it seemed like Stet was shifting the offensive line in the wrong direction and somebody's coming open or just kind of doing things that he doesn't or typically do. And they brought a lot of pressure. They brought a lot of heat the entire game. And that's usually something where, I mean, he's an older guy and he's been around for a long time, and he usually picks that apart. He's had a really good number against the blitz this year. But it just seemed like kind of overwhelmed us. And I'll have some thoughts on that in the back half. But, yeah, offensive line was definitely, I think, the biggest area of concern. This guy says, the arrogant actions of our players pregame, it basically fueled the Tigers. Agree, disagree.
Next.
Yeah, I just don't think that plays into. I mean, come on, guys.
Like, let's be real. Why would the added motivation do anything for this game? Like, if you're better than that team, you should just go out and beat them. It don't matter how motivated they are. If that was the case, why not just hire the greatest motivator of all time to come talk to your team before every single game? If motivation is that big of a factor. At some point, it comes down to just the guy across from you wants to beat you. You want to beat him. Who wants to win more? It has nothing to do with a fight pregame. That's outlandish. Let's stop that right now. Here's one that I think is pretty sensical and will lead us right into the game. A young team that loses focus, that has not learned how to bring the intensity every minute of the game, they're learning what it's like to be hunted. I think that's fair. I think that is a fair assessment of the game. And we talked about this preseason, and it was kind of surprising, I think, to all three of us, that it hadn't really shown up at all yet was our youth. And, you know, you're on the road environment, and you start off slow, and you kind of got to pick it up. You kind of got to – when you let a team hang around long enough, they're going to start believing they can win. And that's when you got to step up and let them know that they can't. And we never really did. And I think that is a credit to our youth.
Yeah, I definitely agree. That was, you know, and to put a positive spin on this, they did win the game. That's important. You always want to win, no matter how bad it looks. But that was in doubt. I mean, we went down 10, and I was like, you know, we still got this, whatever. We can still cover. It got down to the fourth quarter, and I was like, there's a real possibility they don't leave here with a win.
Yep.
So it was still good to get that. They did battle through that, and they did get the win.
I mean, and, you know, I feel like we got spoiled a little bit last year. Like, the way that we beat everyone, you know, we didn't really have a test, like, in the regular season that, like, outside of Clemson, I mean, you know, we were just beating the crap out of people. And, you know, this team obviously is a lot younger, a lot less experienced, and just as talented as last year's team probably. But, I mean, they need to be battle tested some. And so, I mean, not to, like, sit here and act like it's a good thing that we almost lost this game, because it's not, and it sucked, and it was frustrating. But, I mean, at the end of the day, like, this is good experience for these guys to have to win and just battle through a game. And with, you know.
I do agree with all that, but it is funny because Griffin is the guy who Sanford Stadium could be on fire, and he'd be like, oh, no, it's good. It's good. And I'm not sure that he believes that, but it's just more of a fact that he wants that to be the case. That's what I think it stems from. He tells himself that everything is perfectly fine. This happened for this reason, because he wants it to be that way so bad.
Well, listen, at the end of the day, we are still the same football team that beat the heck out of Oregon week 1. And Oregon is a really good football team, okay? I mean, we have the ability to be the number 1 football team in the country. I still think that we can be. And I'm not going to just, you know, a couple bad performances aren't going to just make me go away from that, especially, I mean, they're going to get it fixed. I'm not worried. Not yet.
Yeah, I mean, definitely, I do feel like they're going to get it fixed, and the coaching staff has earned that trust for sure. But I do think it's a little bit concerning that there's been back-to-back these games and two teams that we are much, much better than. Like, you could sleep – everybody said, oh, we sleepwalk through Kent State. We can sleepwalk through Kent State and still beat them by 40. Like, we're way more talented than them. So there's something happening. I don't know what it is personally, but we're gonna talk about it and try to dive into it. But I think it is concerning.
And, you know, I kept saying this during the game. Every time when things were going wrong, I would say, okay, we just got to get a turnover here, and this is all going to go back to normal. And I kept on saying, we just need a turnover right here. We need a turnover. And if we got that, I was like, we'll be fine. I was like, we get an interception, we pick up a fumble, we get a pick 6, we'll come out here and hang 28 unanswered on him. And that just never happened.
Right. Jeremy Ryan Clements, loyal listener, appreciate it. He says, we wouldn't be frustrated if we didn't know what they were capable of doing. I mean, that's 100% factual. We know what this team's capable of. We've seen it. When we don't see it, we get frustrated. That's very, very true. And Jake, I think you hit the nail on the head with the turnovers. People may say they understand how big turnovers are. You don't understand how big turnovers are until you see it in a game like this. We lost the turnover battle 2-0, and we saw it last game in the first half. Turning the ball over is such a big deal. It's not just like a coach cliche thing. When you turn the ball over, that's what happens. Teams hang around because you're giving them extra opportunities. You think back to last year against Florida. We're in a dogfight, just like we were this game. We're better than Florida, but it's a rivalry game. It's in Jacksonville. It's a dogfight. It's what you expect. The leaders of that defense went out and got a turnover, and look what happened. Nolan Smith, Trayvon Walker, Nakobe Dean, all those guys went out there. They made a turnover happen, and the game flipped on its back instantly. That's, in my opinion, that is what happened this game.
There were a couple almost too. I mean,
yeah,
I think it was Chris Smith almost had one.
Yeah,
a dropped interception or two. I think they may have had a fumble that they scooped back up. It was just so many, so close to just turning that entire game around. And I said it, and so you can feel free to disagree. I said that felt like a loss. I went home pissed off and went to bed. That's what I do after we lose. It's not, but it feels like one if you're a fan. And honestly, for those guys, I hope it feels like one to them too. Because I feel like after you get that out of the way, you can stop worrying about perfection, start worrying about doing the little things right.
Yeah, I will say this though about it feeling like a loss. I think if it happened the other way, it would feel more like a loss to me. Like we were ahead at the beginning and then kind of blew it towards the end and made it close. The way we were able to circle back and close strong and come back and be the dominant team in the second half, I think that could be a little momentum right into this game. And I will say, talk about turnovers. That in my opinion, that's the biggest thing that happened was we just got off to a slow start. And that's 2 games we got off to a slow start. And when you do that on the road, in an environment at night where wherever you're at, when you're playing the number 1 team, the environment's going to be decent. Like Missouri's no freaking brutal place to play or anything, but their fans were ready to roll and their players were emotional. And when you give them those turnovers, you let them believe a little bit. And when you get off that tough start, their kicker starts making everything in the world. They got all the momentum in the world. They start to believe, and that's what happens. And that's why Kirby Smart preaches so much. Get off to a fast start. Don't turn the ball over. That's what you have to do on the road. And you think to South Carolina, that's what we did. They folded. So I credit to Missouri and Drinkowitz for coming out and being motivated the whole time. Like they never stopped with the energy.
Yeah, and another thing, a positive you can take away is there were a lot of field goals in this game. There was a lot of bend, don't break, even though they would give up some busts, some chunk plays. Mm-hmm. Keeley got beat a few times. Everybody got beat a few times. Had a couple big runs. And you say credit to Eli Drinkowitz, and there's one thing I don't want to give him credit for, and that was that chicken shit block on Jalen Carter. I'm going to be upset about that. That's something I'm going to remember when I'm like 40 and we're playing Missouri. And I just want to beat the hell out of him for that. That made me
You just can't do that. You can't do that.
On his ankle that was already injured.
That should be a suspension. 100% should be a suspension. You can't do that. As it's different if it's like a tight end or it's like a running back. It's still cheap, but the fact that it was an offensive tackle that did it, that's so lame.
It's a straight it's a straight chop block.
That's a cheap shot. However you want to spin it. It was blatant. It was dirty. It was straight up dirty. And yeah, that guy needs to be suspended. 100% needs to be suspended. But let's get into the game. Griff, you got any stats for us?
Yeah, let me pull up the box score here. And one thing I will say too about the turnovers, I mean, I think too that a little bit of that plays into like just how young we are, and we got pretty deflated after a turnover, and so it just they didn't really know how to get back up from it. And once they did, I mean, at the end of the game, it showed that we were fine on offense, but they just could never get over that hump after getting so deflated from it, and it hurt really bad.
While you look up the stats, I got 2 moments. The 2 biggest moments of the game that I took away from this one was JDJ absolutely getting on everybody on the sideline, which I love to see. I mean, he was letting everybody have it. I think Kamari in particular. Mm-hmm. The second moment, I think this was the biggest play of the game, was when Kendall Milton fumbled on that opening, or the second drive, I guess it would have been, because that was a big chunk run. That was going to be a 25-yard run. You think, all right, let's get the offense on schedule. We'll score a touchdown here. And then I as soon as I saw that defender coming up behind Kendall, and this happens to running backs all the time. I'm not dogging the kid.
Yeah.
When I saw him slow up and that DB come back and cock his arm back, I said, fumble. And 2 seconds later, the ball's on the ground. And yeah, I feel like that was a big moment in terms of momentum, especially because it kept their crowd. Every time they get a turnover, every time they get a stop, their crowd just gets louder and louder and louder.
Yep. Yeah, you can blame it on youth. You can do whatever you want, but a turnover, it doesn't matter really how you respond. It gives the other team momentum. Like you can be old. You can be your 6-year senior. You can turn the ball over and be rah-rah on the sidelines. Oh, we're good. it doesn't matter. That's a giant momentum switch. You give them the ball on the 40, and from there they're going to kick a field goal at least. I mean, that dude could have hit it from the parking lot. So it's just a big swing. Like I don't even blame it on youth really. You just can't turn the ball over. And like you said, yeah, that's a tough play. But you got to think of how our first 2 drives start. We go 3 and out in the first drive with a drop. That would have been a first down. That number 1 that could have got Stetson out of rhythm a little bit. It got Ladd shaky a little bit after the drop. And then you come out the next drive, first play, big run, fumble. So that right there is just 2 drive killers that never got off their feet. You never got any momentum going, and you're just stalled. And, like, that's a real thing. It don't matter how good you are. Momentum is a real thing, especially on the road. And when you have 2 drives stall like that, it's tough to get the wheels back turning. And they did get them turning, but it takes a while.
Yeah, and, you know, I said this too, and if that happens to you in Starkville, you're toting home a whooped ass.
Mm-hmm.
That's all I can tell you because those boys look pretty good on Saturday.
Yeah,
they did look really good.
They're a good team. But now 100%, a tougher environment, Kentucky even, like it's going to be tough, but it's good that we're learning, like you said, that you cannot turn the ball over. You got to cut them out.
And 2, you go. Let's talk about this first.
Zachary Moss says, when it does come up, can we just take the time to appreciate that hit stick Kenny had? That right there is the type of plays you need to get you back going. That right there, somebody getting the rock and saying, I'm running through the guy in front of me. And Kenny is a dog. We said that from the start. It was a hit stick. It was awesome. I jumped out of my seat. You know, the whole sideline jumped up and down. That's the kind of plays you need. Like, that's just the spark. That's all it needs is to flip the momentum back. That's how quick it can be, to your point, Griff, saying about youth. You can get it back, but they have it. And when they have it, they get going. But you have to flip it. Kenny, older guy, got the ball, ran over a dude. Let's roll. I thought Darnell did a great job of that too.
Momentum's not something you get. You take it.
You got to take it 100%. And yeah, I thought Kenny did a great job. He was clearly not 100%, but he provided us a lot of sparks when we needed it. Any other stats yet, Griff?
Yeah. So I mean, when you look at the box score, it doesn't look like this game was 26-22.
Yeah.
I mean, in terms of first downs, Georgia had 28 first downs to Missouri's 14.
That's crazy. They're working on a short field every time. They got the ball.
That shows how big those turnovers are. And then total yards, 481 from Georgia to 294 from Missouri. And they only went 3 for 13 on third down. So they weren't converting on third down. They didn't have a lot of yards. I mean, I don't really know how to explain that. Like,
there's a couple big plays. They got the ball in the plus side of territory multiple times. Like I said, it's just how it goes. And when you don't force them to beat you, that's when teams hang around. We did not force them to beat us in the first half. We gave them an opportunity to beat us. Right. And when you're giving up chunk plays, when you're turning the ball over, they don't have to do a whole lot, but they're right in the game, and they're just sticking around. They're like a little leash. They're just hanging around. Next thing you know, you're dry.
It's funny too because we talk about how quickly we went down in this game. When I watched that first defensive series, I said, "Oh, okay." I didn't feel as bad that we went through and out. I said, "Oh, they're not scoring
right
at all." We absolutely ate them up on defense first drive, and then we had to keep going back out there, and then they got these little chunk plays. Ripping off a 25-yard pass on the sideline, quarterback running out of bounds, just hitting these well-executed plays. And, yeah, I mean, that's what you got to live with. You can't hold these guys forever. Yeah, 91 of them on 2 plays, exactly. Talk about ripping off those chunks.
Yeah, it's, Michael Dudley says 102 rushing yards, 91 from 2 plays. That's nuts. And we'll talk about it again. Like, we expected to give up some big plays as a young team. And so I think you just write that up to we're figuring stuff out. And credit to the defense because they did, like you said, they bend, they don't break. It's still really talented defense. You give a couple big plays, so what? Make the next one. That's definitely a positive. But while we're harping on the negative, let's just knock it all out. Anything negative, let's just freaking knock it out.
I've seen.
Go ahead.
I want to acknowledge this. I've seen a couple comments about stat, and then here this Georgia always lets elite QBs go out of the state. Cam Newton, Deshaun Watson, Trevor Lawrence, Malik Willis, Justin Fields. We recruited Trevor Lawrence really hard. We almost got him. Justin Fields, we did get. Malik Willis went to Liberty. So I mean, that's just. I mean, you can't get every quarterback.
I don't think quarterback play. Stetson did have some issues. He was overthrowing guys. But
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he did not have the best game of his life, but he still ended up throwing for 312 yards, and he had to throw the ball 42 times because we couldn't run it. I mean, the offensive line was not blocking well. I mean, you got to give him a little leniency here, and he did what he had to do at the end of the game, guys. He's a leader, and I do not want the fan base to turn on him like they did last year, because it was so stupid to sit there and watch everyone just calling for somebody else the entire year, and that's just not what we're gonna do.
Well, it's just ignorant to do it at this point. Like, because he had one bad half, like where I was saying I'm going to turn. And when I say bad half, like, yeah, he did overthrow some guys and stuff, but it wasn't like he was turning the ball over. He didn't turn the ball over. He didn't do anything to really put us in jeopardy. We just weren't really scoring points. Okay, whatever. Let's let the defense play for a little bit, and then he'll figure it out. And when he needed to do it, he made big-time throws. A lot of big-time third-down throws when we couldn't really run the ball. And that's all you can really ask him to do, especially on the road. We had receivers down, like AD being down is not good. Airy not being 100% is not good. But that doesn't matter. Like, we still have guys that can get it done. And he found the guys that could get it done, and we did it. So
yeah, I don't know if you chalk it up to a bad week of practice, but there was a lot of just routes that were off by a step, routes that weren't deep enough, routes that weren't shallow enough, balls right behind somebody. And some of them were Stetson overthrowing guys. Some of them was him being a little off target. But I think a lot of it was timing. The timing of this offense, the whole entire game just did not look right. And I don't like, like I said, you talk about some of the overthrows. Were those supposed to be, somebody was supposed to be a step ahead?
Right. You never know that stuff. Exactly.
Or is this Stetson sailing somebody? I do agree with what Michael said. He said Monken needs to keep the play calling simple. I agree. I think he kind of did at a certain point. But there were a couple calls in there where I'm like, man, we're getting a little too cute here. We're bigger, we're stronger, we're better than these guys. Let's line up and let's keep it simple. But
yeah, it was weird to me though when I got on Twitter, because I didn't walk away from that game being like, or the first half being like, man, Step played awful. Like, maybe he did play a little bit bad, but maybe I have a soft spot and blinded, but I did not. That was not my takeaway from the first half. Was Step was bad. Literally, the only time I got a little irritated was when he overthrew Darnell. Like,
because you can't overthrow a guy that's 6'7".
If you ever throw the ball Darnell, just leave it a little bit short. Never overthrow. Because if you leave it short, at worst, it's an incompletion. Because nobody's going to go up and take the ball from that guy. No one on earth. You're probably going to get a PI or a completed pass. Like, give him a chance. Like, right. You don't want to underthrow Ladd. You want to but one-on-one, you want to give your guys chances always. You don't want to overthrow your guys, but definitely not Darnell. Just give that guy a chance.
And one last thing, I guess this would be my last bad thing, is I would have liked to have made a couple more adjustments, especially the fact Missouri was just bringing the house every time.
Yeah.
And it seems like Georgia never adjusted. I don't know if they just didn't want to show that much, which sounds crazy, especially because you're losing on the road in the SEC.
Yeah, that couldn't have been it. There's no way. When you get down, that goes out the window.
And I don't know. I just didn't really see any major adjustments. Obviously, like I said, it worked out well in the end. I don't know if they just said, hey, we're going to run our offense, hell or high water.
Mm-hmm.
But, finally we started seeing, quick screen to Bowers near the goal line, picks up 9 yards, right at the end of the game. And I just would have liked to have seen a little more than that. If you want to get creative, then get creative against what they're doing, not just for the sake of being creative.
Yeah, no, I definitely thought it was Monken's weirdest game. And we made the adjustment second half. Like, it was just the whole first month of the year, we're just getting the ball out quick, get it to guys in space and letting them go. And that's kind of the modern offense, and it's what everyone does. It just didn't seem like we were doing that. It seemed like everything was kind of slow developing, and then we throw it to Brock Bowers and there's 12 yards. Like, just let the guys make plays. That's what Monken's great at. And I just chalk it up to something, just an anomaly, because the second half we got better at it, but it was just a weird game in terms of play calling.
Yeah, it felt weird because it felt like up to the Kent State game, it felt so easy on offense just because it all looked so simple. It literally just like, let's get it to Kenny on the outside and he's going to make a play. And it doesn't seem like we did that as much in the past 2 games. Mm-hmm. And I don't know, it's just frustrating. It's like you do those things first, and then when they can't stop it and they're trying to stop that, then you start doing other stuff. You throw it down the field more. And I don't know, it just feels like you get your offense into a rhythm, and then once it's in a rhythm, you go with the more cutesy, different stuff. You know? I don't know.
For sure. The ones that were kind of getting me were Stet and Kenny being off on some of the screen passes. those were like, all right, that's super uncharacteristic. That
was
hasn't
one of the
happened
plays I
all
was
year.
talking. Was that, Kenny being a step behind? Was that Stetson sailing it over him? Because I remember one vividly. I think it was a third down, and Kenny was coming to the bottom of the screen.
Yes.
And he just I don't know if he just airmailed him. I think he did airmail him because I think Kenny was pretty close to the sideline. But yeah.
Yeah, it was weird. Just weird. You kind of get maybe a little gun shy. You're not finishing those. Those things happen. Like that's just things that happen. And the last negative I'll say is, you mentioned Keeley earlier. Like, he's better than what he was against Missouri.
Absolutely.
Some of the plays that he made, he's 100% better than. And people have bad games. I'm not going to sit here and harp on it. Whatever. You don't get PIs on third down like that when you are better than the receiver in front of you. He knows
That
better.
ball was way out of bounds, by the way. That pissed me off too.
Yeah. And he had safety help over the top. He's better than that. Whatever. Just, like I said, just chalk it up to a bad day. But when multiple people have bad days at the same time, that's when you have games like this. And so hopefully we're getting those out of the way, kick them out, whatever. I think we're good. There was plenty of positive takeaway from this. So let's get into those. Griff, give me a positive.
JDJ. Dude played his butt off the entire game, and he was the leader on defense in this game. He was the guy who was going on the sidelines and being like, "Hey, y'all better get it together because we're not playing like we're who we are. We're not playing like the Georgia Bulldogs." And it showed, man. Like, he was fighting his butt off all game and making plays too. And so he really stood out to me in this game.
Yeah, and you talk about leader on the defense and stuff. We score. We need a stop bad. We got to get a stop. We've been trading field goals. We finally score a touchdown. We need a negative play. Number 4 goes. He gets a negative play. He gets the sack.
Yeah.
He's the guy who's been there. He's the guy who's made the big play plenty of times. And it just seems like he is always a dude that when we need it, he makes the play. That's why I love him. I love Nolan Smith. He's a guy. And that was a huge sack. And that's when I was kind of like, all right, we're good. Nolan stepped up. He made the play we needed. We're going to win.
Yeah, definitely. And, that's another thing too. We talk about limiting them to field goals. The third down percentages. It's like the Kent State game. It wasn't pretty, but you realize Georgia didn't punt that whole game. And you take away those 2 big chunk runs, only giving up a handful of rushing yards. That's, those are all positives we can take away from this.
Mm-hmm.
And, the defense, even on the perimeter too, they were trying to get the ball to Luther Burden. They were trying to get the ball to the other guy who was a 4-star, I believe.
Who are good receivers, keep in mind.
That Lovett
These aren't
dude is
scrubs.
good.
Yeah.
Burden and Lovett are
really
very talented, good receivers. So it ain't like they're just getting the ball out to some random guys.
They were running a lot of misdirections, and Georgia was staying disciplined and meeting these guys and hitting them at the right angles. The big plays that they got were typically on broken plays or they were up the middle. Georgia was handling them on the exterior, and that was good to see.
Shout out to my boy. We've been calling it for weeks. We've been saying, hey, step up and make the play. Number 8, Dom Blaylock is back. That is the Dom that we all remember, because in 19, points were hard to come by. They were not easy. It felt like watching paint dry at times. But when we needed a play, Dom Blaylock was the guy we went to. You think about the Auburn game.
Yeah.
Think about the Auburn game. He caught the touchdown that we needed when it looked like no one was going to score. He just seemed to always be open across the middle of the field. He's not scared of anyone. And like you said, Jake, that third down play,
it might have been the biggest play of the game.
Always bleak. That play could have won us the game. And he made a tough contested catch. That's what we needed. That's the type of guy we need to go out there and just be like, all right, I'm going to win this one-on-one. I'm going to catch this ball no matter what. Love to see Dom back out there. He's just going to continue to get more targets, continue to get more catches. Awesome. Congrats to him, too, coming back from injury. People don't really understand what all that goes into it. And I've been through one injury. He had the same one back-to-back. Hats off to him.
It's been a long road for him.
Pumped to see him make those plays and pumped to watch him continue to do that for sure. So shout out Dom. And man, the biggest hype of the year coming in was the tight end room. And could they live up to the hype? I was starting to have my doubts. So I'm like, we talk about these guys every single day. Every news outlet talks about this every day. They won us the game. Brock and Darnell won us the football game. Like, those guys took over when we needed it. I forget where I saw where Darnell, I don't know if it was an interview or what, where Darnell just like, all right, run the ball behind me. He went up to the
that was a
coaches
quote
and he
from
was like,
Kirby.
Yeah, Kirby said
that's what he said at halftime or something.
What was the exact one? What did he say, Griff?
I think he said like Darnell just stepped up and said, "All right, like run the ball behind me, like let me block somebody or something like that." Yeah,
That's something NFL
awesome.
teams are going to love too. And you know, while we're on the topic of running the ball, it really felt like Georgia couldn't run the ball. You know, for at least a good portion of the game. Kenny McIntosh finishes with 6 yards of carry, ripped off a 27-yard run. Kendall Milton finishes with a 63-yard carry, that 35-yard run. Dejon Edwards, 4.5 yards of carry. You know, they got stuffed a couple times, but they were still making some chunk plays.
And when we needed to, the Kirby Smart Death March. We get the ball back, 5 minutes left. Dejon Edwards runs the clock out. That's what good teams do. That's a spot where we're all Falcons fans. That game's not over in the Falcons. Even if we come back and take the lead, we have the ball with 5 minutes left and we needed a first down. That doesn't always happen. And we did it. We got the ball and we ran it every single time. Just ran it down their throat. First down, victory formation. So shout out to the offense for closing it out for sure.
This is somebody else I want to say something about that we don't talk about very often. As we talked about, Missouri's kicker was hitting everything. Jack Podlesny matched him every step of the way. Pod came up with some big kicks.
Yep.
4-4 on kicks. That's 12 points. Mm-hmm. And we needed all 12. So
you talk about, you know, Rodrigo was a folk hero because of the look, let's be honest. Because of the look, the interview with his helmet on after the game winner, all that stuff was kind of what fed into the legend of Rodrigo. Podlesny has been, dare I say, better?
Absolutely.
I mean, has he ever missed a big kick? Ever?
No. And
I can't remember. Not off the top of my head.
Listen, Rod was great, but he blew some at time. I mean, when you go back and look, 2018, that national or SEC championship.
All right. We ain't got to do this. Just let's talk about Pod.
The thing is with Pod, man, it used to be so funny because I'd always say he would always miss the easy ones. But if you need him to go out there and nail a 66-yarder or something, he's got you. Like it started with that Cincinnati Peach Bowl game, I think. Would really
that kick was electric.
He would hit that from 70.
Like I can't remember any big kick that he's missed. He's nails.
I can remember the little ones. It's funny too because he would miss a couple. I can't remember any off the top of my head. Obviously, they didn't end up.
He missed one in the Florida game last year. I'm pretty sure. I think he missed the first one.
Yeah, maybe Clemson. I don't know about Clemson, but
I think he did miss one against Clemson. I think you're right about that.
But I swear, when you need Jack Podlesny, he's got you.
Yeah,
he's there.
Yeah, shout out to him for sure. Yeah, I remember that poor guy, the dude before Rodrigo. I don't even remember the guy's name, and if you do remember it, don't say it. But he came in, he started the year, and he missed like 4 straight, and then we brought Rodrigo in. The poor guy. Y'all remember him?
Yeah, hang on. I got to look.
I think I remember his name, but
I think I do too. I remember his last name for sure.
Yeah,
but I remember his number absolutely. I remember his number
poor
too.
Dude. And he looked like he was seeing ghosts out there too. It was like I was the least confident in extra point. He was missing extra points. I was like, who is this guy? And we just had a good kicker before him too.
It was Marshall Morgan before him.
Marshall Morgan.
No,
yeah,
Marshall Morgan.
Yeah.
Was it Kobe? Oh no,
I think his last name was Ham.
Yeah. He was number 92.
Poor guy. Hope he's doing well.
Yeah, I hope he is.
Sure, he got a degree.
But yeah, I mean, Brock Bowers, that guy is something serious. Like we say this every week, and why not? Since he's on our team and we only get him for another year and a half, we might as well talk about him as much as possible. He was the best player on the field at all times. Sometimes you throw the playbook out, you throw the scouting report out, and you say, get the ball to that guy because he is going to make a play. And when we needed it, he did it. That acceleration on that play for the game winner, when he didn't score, but he almost did, it shocks me every single time. You get the ball to him, I'm like, all right, just
he's freaky.
Make contact and push him forward. No, he just runs by him. He just straight up runs by him. It's insane. He's definitely freaky.
And Darnell freaking drop kicked the guy. That was sick.
He hurt him with his shin.
I was like, oh my God, he kicked him in the face.
He knocked him back like 5 yards.
It was so impressive. He almost jumped over him, standing straight up. He put his shin in his face and then landed on his feet.
Yeah. I mean, like we talked about it during the game. He's just so used to people trying to tackle him at the legs that he just tries to jump over him. 'Cause, I mean, you can't tackle that man up high. I mean, come on.
No,
Just
that's
a
what
basement.
that's what I think some people at the house were talking about. Like he's always his instincts is to jump over people. Yeah, since he was 7 years old, people have been diving at his knees because they can't hit him up top. And finally, he got so sick and tired of it, he started jumping over them. Like that, nobody wants to get hit in the knees. Go out and get hit in the knees over and over again. Tell me how that feels. Like
By the way, it was William Ham, wasn't it?
Yeah, poor guy.
That's not a great kicker name either.
I think he was Ginger.
I think that's a sick kicker name, actually.
What if he's big unit 69?
What if he was
69? What if it's William Ham?
He's not.
Well, then I hope he's listening. So
he's not bold enough to be with him.
There's no way. There's no way. I would not put that on that man.
It says he went 3-7 on kicks.
Oh man,
So he made some.
3 of 7. That's awful. That is
it's under
awful.
50%.
Any other positives we got?
I don't think it's as bad as. Look, by the way, if you follow me on Twitter, by the way, and you see me after the game like pissed off, it's fine. Like I'm allowed to be pissed off. Like I don't know anybody that was particularly happy after the game on Saturday. Nobody I was with was happy. So I mean,
yeah, hey. I did text some of my guys. Let's see what
nothing, Zachary.
Not a dang thing, Zach.
But yeah, no.
He asked what's wrong with being a ginger. Nothing wrong with being a ginger. It just matched the whole part. The poor guy was just hurting.
That's why I said Ham's not a good kicker last name, because who was the one from a couple years ago? It was like Blewett. Yeah, Chris Blewett. That was his name. If you're a kicker, your last name's Blewett.
You can't.
You gotta change. You gotta change to like
that's a meme waiting to happen.
Tackle where you never really blow the game.
Well, it's like Kenny Pickett. He threw 3 picks in his first NFL game. Anyways,
that's tough.
Yeah, I get a little pissed off after games. It's okay. Like I have high expectations. That's fine. I'm not saying we suck. Like I think that's what people mistake what I say a lot of times. They think I'm getting on there and saying, "Oh, we suck. We're horrible."
Yeah.
No, I'm just telling you the truth, whether you want to hear it or not. It wasn't a good game. Kent State wasn't a good game. It was a
nasty game, but man, listen, I'm not gonna lie to you. I'm sitting there in the third quarter at a time where I was starting to fade into like, are we going to win? Are we going to lose? And I'm like, man, it's been a while since I've done this.
I was thinking
it has been a while since I've been here. And I think I told whoever was here, I was like, the last 5 games we've played have felt so fast. It's like, oh, well, there's halftime, game's over. And in the second half, you're just watching to see some cool plays. This game felt like 7 hours.
Oh my! It was so freaking
long.
Forever.
So long, and looking back now, I kind of enjoyed it. It's been a long time since I've been up yelling, screaming. If it is just a flash in the pan and it's just burn the tapes, this one doesn't matter, then I've enjoyed it and I'm all for it. Give me one of those a year where it doesn't matter and I'm just locked in on a game where I shouldn't be. It's different when you expect to be locked in for the full time, and when you're not, it's way more stressful. So
just a slice of humble pie. That's all you can say.
That's all it is.
Yeah, I see.
Go ahead.
I was gonna say too. Like, I mean, like I've obviously been very positive throughout this, and I'll tell you during the game, I was raging. I was a madman.
What made you the maddest? At what point were you the maddest?
I mean, besides Jalen, that was when I was hands down the maddest. I was saying some stuff that was out of character. The PI on Keeley was bad because I'm pretty sure that was a third down. We were about to get off the field.
It was a long third down. A long third down. What was the one you walked in your room and started kicking stuff?
I didn't walk in my room and start kicking. I punched my door.
That is bullcrap.
I punched my door. I didn't do anything after
Multiple
that.
times. There was 3 sounds come out.
I punched my door once.
Your poor girlfriend was embarrassed sitting on the couch.
Yeah, well, she's just gonna have to get used to it. I mean, that's just part of it, man. Come on.
No.
She got spoiled last year because we didn't freaking have to play a close game. Shoot. Ain't gonna be like that every time. What was the part
that made you so mad? It may have been Keeley too. Honestly.
I don't know what it was.
That one was pretty bad.
It kind of just like a fever dream. And that's what I was going to say. I mean, like I was pissed the entire time. But at the end of the day, like when you look back on it, when was the last time we had to watch a game like that? I mean, South Carolina in 2019, and this is a very different team than that. And I mean, and we won. We won the game.
Jay Nelpa wants to know, who are y'all, in all caps. I don't know if that's good or bad, but we're the freaking Baxter Street Boys. Subscribe to us on the podcast on all platforms. Listen to us on the road. Listen to us when you go to work. Even like I said, even if you listen to us on YouTube, just subscribe and it'll download for us every time, and you're supporting us just like that. We're about to have some cool partners coming up. You're going to want to be involved in that. So subscribe to us there.
Some free stuff. Everybody likes free stuff.
For sure. We've already given out one.
So,
I still got to mail it out. That's on me. Y'all keep me accountable. I got to mail that thing out. I've been here, there, and everywhere. I was pulling up the sources, and I read it all and forgot to read it to the people. So I texted them. I was like, weekly check-in on the squad. And they all pretty much were like, team's doing good. We're pretty banged up to the max. Definitely some injuries we got to get right. Got to get the injuries right. He said, or most of them said, the mood is really, really good. Everyone is pumped and proud of the way we handled Saturday. Just got to fix the turnovers. That's all it is. Like, you can't turn the ball over. It's that simple. And if you do, you need one. You got to even it out. And we didn't. And that's what's tough. You got to think, if we're +2 in the turnover margin, it's 35, 40-point game.
I was just going to say, that's the sign of a good team if you're down 2 in the turnover margin and you still win the game.
Yes, on the road. Yeah. I'm not going to apologize for the first quarter bet. I had multiple people text me.
I'm not going to apologize for it either.
I mean, come on. We can't. We're not. I mean, come on.
It was a prime opportunity.
You win some, you lose some.
To go take it. It was a prime opportunity. And you know what? We just didn't do it. And
if Kendall doesn't fumble on the first drive, I still think it hits.
100%.
All the bets hit. If he doesn't fumble on that first shot, every single one we had hits.
I'm not blaming Kendall. I'm being a little tongue-in-cheek. So.
Yeah.
For sure. Yeah, the drop, that's over. Lad takes that to the house and it's a ball game.
Dog for life. Heck yeah. Everybody hit that like button. Do it, baby.
Everybody hit that like button.
Hey, and we got more people in here now than we have. I mean, if you're just coming in, go back. This will be on YouTube after we finish streaming, and then it'll also be on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. If you got somewhere you need to go, play it in your car. We're everywhere, baby.
Play it at work. I know you don't want to listen to your boss. Just put your
facts. So we talked about the tweet and what went wrong. People identifying what went wrong. Shout out to all the people who engaged. There was some. I couldn't read them all. They were coming in fast, but there were some funny ones out there.
70.
And then we talked about the micro parts of the game. Let's talk about big picture. Does this change the way, if we were playing Tennessee tomorrow, would you be vastly more worried than you were 2 weeks ago?
I'd be concerned because that's a 3-day turnaround. And that's a pretty quick. It's a pretty quick time to play another game. But
that's true. That's true. What about Saturday?
I think I'd be lying if I said yes. Or if I said no. I think I'd be a little more concerned, but I would love the fact that we would probably only be single digit favorites in Vegas, and then I'd be able to bet the house on us. So I'd still take us to win. But if I agree with what Jeremy just said too, if the game was in Knoxville, I would be very worried.
Yes.
When it comes down to, for me, is like, if it was a while ago in our Georgia fandom, before 2016 or before 2017, I guess is what I would say, I would be really worried. I'd be so nervous.
Well, you're worried about a game in those years regardless. There was nothing transitive from week to week in those years. We could look like the best team in the world, and then we could go out and play Georgia Southern to an overtime game. That's what happened back then. But this is now, Griff, where we're not used to seeing this. We don't see this ever, and now we've seen it back-to-back games. You can't tell me that is not a little bit concerning if we were playing a really, really good team on Saturday.
I know this is also a hypothetical.
Tennessee isn't a really, really good team, but yeah.
You could also write this off as a look-ahead spot if it was a team like Tennessee next week, and we do have Auburn next week, so potentially.
Here's what I'll say about Auburn. We opened up as a huge favorite. I'm going to take it. I'm going to go ahead and tell you I'm going to take it. They're giving you that line. They're telling you we're going to beat the crap out of them. Just take it. But I think this team needs a real alive Sanford Stadium, a true home game. This is the first home game.
We got to show out, guys.
This is the first home game of the year. I don't care about the other two. That's not a real home environment. You don't have those juices flowing. And what this last game has created against Missouri is created a little bit of anxiety. Me and Griffin talked about that yesterday. As a fan, you're walking in that stadium with a little bit of anxiety, like, what team am I going to see? I hope we start out fast. And so you're going to be anxious. That makes the environment better. Sanford is going to be rocking at 3:30 on Saturday. I cannot wait to be there. It's my first time back in the stadium since 19. We're going to bring it. We're going to bring it. This game is going to help this environment, and that's going to propel this team going forward.
I do have a confession to make, guys. I get nervous before every game, and depending on the quality of the opponent is about how much time it takes. There's even usually 30 seconds where I'll just have the thought what if we lose to Sanford? But
Yeah.
Missouri, they probably got about 15 minutes, and I guess I should have given them more time. But a team like Auburn, they'll probably get about 30 minutes, maybe an hour. They might get an hour.
What's the most nervous national championship and all that aside? Regular season game, what's the most nervous you've been in the last 3 years for a regular season game?
Probably Clemson.
Yeah,
Probably.
you had the whole offseason. Arkansas, I was terrified. For some reason, last year against Arkansas, I was sick. I was sick to my stomach for some reason.
I didn't have time to be sick. Thankfully, it was a noon game because usually it's game day. Usually, leading up to it, I'm not that bad. I had to wait till 7:30 for Clemson, and
I was nervous for Clemson too. Very.
Yeah, and so that was a big one for me. And then Arkansas, I don't know. Maybe it's just because it was a noon game and I had to get up and start drinking at 8 in the morning. But
I've told that story on here. I didn't sleep that night. I literally stayed up all night, went straight to game day at 5:30 in the morning, and went to the game. And then Yeah. No, man. I don't know. Arkansas, I think I probably just don't remember it as much. I probably wasn't as nervous as I should have been.
Yeah.
Well, I guess
I would
be, but
going back to the question, I would be nervous. It makes me slightly more nervous against a team like Tennessee. Just the way some of the people on the outside were playing in the perimeter, it was just sketchy. And I know we're better than them, and I would probably bet the spread, like y'all said. But it's just terrifying. But speaking of Tennessee, their best win did just lose to Georgia Tech, who, I'll come out, I'll say it. My bad. I said they were in Buckhead. I'm wrong. Jake, tell the people where they're from.
They're actually in Roswell.
Yeah, they're in Roswell.
I thought they were in Gwinnett, but
yeah, it's Roswell. That's where Georgia Tech, regardless, doesn't represent Atlanta. Anyway, so Tennessee has no good wins. They think they're on cloud nine. I genuinely hope. Well, I don't know. If Bryce Young's out 2 weeks, this would be a perfect storm for Tennessee because they would beat a Bama team who is half of itself, and then they would think they are on the moon, and then they would come in and we would dog walk them, and nothing on earth would make us three right here higher. Coming from North Georgia, I'm telling you right now, people in West Georgia hate Auburn for obvious reasons. People in South Georgia hate Florida. Everybody hates Florida, but people in South Georgia hate Florida. Come spend 1 year in Chattanooga, Tennessee, and just listen to these folks. They are clueless. I saw a tweet yesterday that said Bama's looked beatable, Georgia's looked beatable. They listed off two other things and was like, Tennessee didn't even play this week and they've had 4 wins. What? In what way did this affect them? I don't understand.
Dude, I was gonna say, when it comes to the game I get most nervous for every year, it's Tennessee, and only because of where we're from and the people. And I know that if something bad happens, I'm going to get 40 texts from people who I haven't talked to in 2 years saying, "Oh, hey, how about them now, baby?"
That's the problem. That is the.
They don't ever want to talk to you unless Tennessee. I have somebody that I haven't spoken to since high school text me about Tennessee.
Exactly. I don't ever text them about their losses, whatever. It's just whatever. But as soon as we start struggling, there's 40 Tennessee fans texting me, like y'all said, I haven't talked to him forever. I had this one dude DM me on Instagram. He didn't even text me. He didn't have the nerve to text me. He says, "You good?" This was in the second quarter. And I was chilling about the second quarter. So I was like, whatever. I was still thinking we're going to come back and kill him. But this pissed me off. He said, "You good?" I said, "I don't usually text people during the game, but when we beat Tennessee by 30, you will be hearing from me." Well, he backed down a little bit. He said, "I'm just kidding, man. I'm sorry." And I said, "I'll be kidding as well." So I can't wait to share some ha-has with him during the Tennessee game.
I just don't understand, man. That's never crossed my mind. I got friends at every single fan base.
Never.
And I've never thought to text somebody that I haven't seen in years just to be like, y'all lost.
Yeah.
What?
That's such a loser thing to do. Down the road, you're hanging out with them later on that week. Yeah, you start talking crap. But right when it happens, like people take that crap serious.
In the
I
middle
would
of the
like you
game,
consider. I would like you considerably less if you texted me. If you texted me like 3 days later, I mean, even if I hadn't talked to you in a while, I'd be like, okay, weird. If you text me right after the game, I'm actually gonna like you less.
No, you're
if
a
I
loser.
even
during the
You're a
game,
loser.
I want to fight you. Like
You're a loser. 100% a loser. But that's Tennessee. That's what they do. I can't wait to kill them. But this week we have Auburn, and we all hate Auburn. I've said nice things about them on this show before. Screw Auburn. Like, even if I'm talking nice about them, that's like that's like saying, oh, I like green beans. Nobody really likes green beans. They're just more tolerable than all the other vegetables. And when you put a lot of salt on them, they're okay. You don't just say, oh man, these green beans are good. Like, you got a Big Mac and green beans sitting there. Everybody eats green beans. That's Auburn. Auburn is green beans. You talk about them good because they're healthy and it's good for you and they're a good rivalry, but screw them.
Does Georgia get Brian Harsin fired after this weekend?
Brian Harsin's done. When Georgia beats them by 40 this week, Brian Harsin is done. Hey, and we're doing him a favor. He needs to get out of that place.
We're doing Auburn fans a favor too. We're doing a favor for all parties involved.
Go to Arizona State, do your thing, dude. Have a good career out there. But Auburn is a death sentence. It's a dumpster fire. That place does not want to ever win again. They just want to be right. It's a trash shoot of a program. I can't wait to beat the brakes off them. Anytime you think about, well, Auburn's kind of irrelevant, just pull up some old videos of Malzahn or something, and that'll fuel the fire.
It's a get right game. That's what it's all about. It's a get right game, and it's a rivalry game, so that's a good spot to be, plenty motivated, plenty hyped up, ready to go. This has got to be a get right game. I know you got Vanderbilt next. I don't care about that. This is just got to stop. Get right game this weekend.
100%. 100%.
And we're going to get right, baby.
Believe it,
dog fans.
What's some of the biggest areas you think are going to flip this game where we see night and day difference?
Turnover production.
Yep.
I want 3 turnovers. They have horrible quarterback play. I think we're going to be sending a lot of pressure. That's a recipe for fumbles and interceptions. Yeah. You got Robbie Ashford that he's made 2 starts, maybe.
Yeah.
Maybe one and played in one game. Yeah. That's a young quarterback. He's not going to run all over us like you did on LSU. That's what I think it's got to come down to. I think you got to pressure the quarterback. You got to get some sacks, and you got to make him uncomfortable. And I think everything else will follow suit.
Yep. Agreed.
Big game instead.
I think the offensive line takes a big step forward. I just think this home environment juices the team like no other. That's what it is. Maybe
that's what they need.
We haven't had it. We're 5 games in, and we have not had it.
I was at Sanford. It was completely dead.
Exactly.
It was dead.
It's not
the pregame.
3:30. Here's what we're running into, and it's that time of the year where it's a 3:30 kick. It's going to feel unbelievable outside, and by halftime, it's going to get dark, and the lights are going to come on. We're going to see the red lights for the fourth quarter, and it's going to be awesome. It's going to be awesome. I can't wait. That place, like I said, is going to be rocking. I said it during the game. It's what this team needs, is a true Sanford Stadium environment to feel like college football again. October, it's going to be good. It's going to be good.
They got the Carolina night game early last year. This is going to be the first one where it feels like, hey, I hate to borrow from Nick Saban, but this is the time of the year where your piss has got to run hot. And it's true, man. This is as soon as the weather cools down, your piss has got to heat up.
Yep. We have another show coming later this week, and we're going to talk all things Auburn. The shows so far, the prep shows have been weird. The only good one was Oregon, I guess South Carolina, because it was just teams that, up to this point, teams we didn't feel like we were better than. Maybe we didn't do a good enough job prepping for Missouri. I don't know. But we will be prepping for Auburn. We'll have things to say about them. All week on Twitter, we will be giving it to Auburn fans. If you ever need us to tag team into a conversation or something, just tag us. We'll jump in. But Auburn fans are a little bit quiet right now. I'm sure they'll get louder as the week goes, just to start stuff. So let's just put them to bed early. Like we said, this is Basher Street Boys. Follow us on Twitter. Like this video. Subscribe to the pod. We appreciate you guys coming out and listening. Best fan base in the world. We're going to get back on track. I can't wait to see y'all on Saturday. Let's make some noise. Dogs cover the spread.